Have you ever woken up feeling like you've carried the whole world on your shoulders during the night? This isn't the common fatigue we know, the kind that a good night's sleep can cure. It's something much deeper, draining your vital energy from the moment you open your eyes. Cayce warned that when the soul is in danger, it manifests an exhaustion that transcends the physical, creating a feeling of weight that seems impossible to bear. This is the first cry for help we must learn to recognize. There's a pain we can't explain with words, an anguish that arises out of nowhere and settles in our chest like a persistent shadow. It's that feeling that haunts us in the quietest moments, when there's nothing around us to justify such anguish. According to Cayce, this nameless anguish is the soul's desperate language trying to communicate with us. It arises when we stray from our true spiritual path, creating a void that echoes in every heartbeat. It's as if our deepest essence is crying out for help, begging to be heard and understood. This inexplicable pain is not weakness. It is the soul's wisdom trying to guide us home. When we feel this anguish, it is because our spiritual essence recognizes that something fundamental is out of place in our journey. This is the moment when we need to stop and listen carefully, for our soul is trying to save us from a path that could lead us even further from the light. This unnamed anguish is, in fact, the soul's love for itself manifesting as an urgent warning. We often try to mask this pain with distractions, medication, or frantic activities, but it always returns because its origin is spiritual. Cayce taught that this anguish only finds true healing when we recognize its call and decide to turn our attention inward. It takes courage to face this pain without running away, allowing it to guide us to the root of the spiritual problem that needs healing. The most impressive thing is that this anguish, however painful, holds within it the key to our liberation. It forces us to question everything around us, to seek deeper answers, and to not settle for a superficial life. It is through this pain that the soul invites us on a journey of self-discovery that can completely transform our existence. When we learn to see this anguish as a sacred messenger rather than an enemy, we begin to understand that it is a gift in disguise. It is our soul's most loving way of warning us that we need to change direction before it's too late. This inexplicable pain is, therefore, a blessing disguised as suffering, a spiritual beacon trying to guide us back to the light. During sleep, when our conscious mind rests, the soul finds its purest channel of communication with us. Dreams become the secret language through which our spiritual essence attempts to warn us of impending dangers. Cayce revealed that recurring dreams of falling, being chased, or navigating labyrinths are not mere random creations of the mind, but urgent codes our soul sends when it is in danger. These dreams carry vital messages about wrong choices we are making, or paths that lead us away from our true life mission. When we repeatedly dream about freefall, our soul is telling us that we've lost control over important aspects of our spiritual journey. It's as if it's screaming that we're plummeting toward an emotional or spiritual abyss that can be avoided if we pay attention to the signs. These falling dreams are desperate warnings that we need to regain our inner balance before it's too late. Persecution nightmares reveal that we're running away from important truths about ourselves or from spiritual responsibilities we should assume. Our soul uses these dramatic images to show us that we're running in the wrong direction, trying to escape something we actually need to face. It's as if our spiritual essence is telling us that the only way to find peace is to stop running and confront what haunts us. Dream labyrinths are perhaps the most powerful symbols a soul in distress can send us during sleep. They represent our spiritual confusion, our feeling of being lost, unsure of which direction to take in life. When we dream of labyrinths, our soul is warning us that we are trapped in patterns of thought or behavior that keep us spinning in circles, never finding the true exit. Cayce emphasized that these warning dreams should never be ignored, as they carry the purest wisdom of our spiritual essence. They are like treasure maps in reverse, showing us exactly where we should not go and what dangers we should avoid. When we begin to truly pay attention to these dreams and decipher them seriously, we discover that our soul is our wisest and most loving advisor. The most extraordinary thing is that these warning dreams also contain, by their very nature, the keys to our liberation. When we understand their messages and act on them, nightmares gradually transform into dreams of hope and guidance. It's as if our soul, realizing we're finally listening, begins sending us visions of healing and renewal instead of warnings of danger. There are times when silence becomes more deafening than any scream, when the stillness around us seems to carry an unbearable weight. It is in these moments that our endangered soul transforms even moments of peace into internal battlefields. Cayce described this phenomenon as one of the clearest signs of spiritual imbalance, where the absence of external noise only amplifies the inner chaos our essence is experiencing. Silence, which should be our refuge, becomes our tormentor. When our soul is wounded, it fills every moment of stillness with restlessness, anxiety, and despair. It's as if the soundless void becomes a constant echo of our spiritual pain, reminding us every second that something fundamental is out of place in our journey. This heavy silence is not just the absence of sound, but the oppressive presence of our own disconnection from the divine. The inner peace that should naturally blossom in silent moments is replaced by a seemingly endless agitation. Our mind races in 1,000 different directions, creating storms of thoughts that prevent us from finding any moment of true rest. It's as if our soul is screaming through the absence of peace, using the silence itself to amplify its pain. Cayce revealed that this suffocating emptiness is a clear sign that our spiritual essence feels completely isolated, cut off from its source of divine energy and love. It is the silent cry of a soul that has lost its connection to the light and can no longer find its way home. This spiritual loneliness manifests as a feeling of being lost in the universe without anchor or direction. The most disturbing thing is that the more we try to fill this silence with external distractions, the more it intensifies when we return to stillness. It's as if our soul is forcing us to confront this spiritual solitude, refusing to be silenced by superficial entertainment. It uses silence itself as a tool of awakening, forcing us to confront our inner disconnection. But there is hope even in the heaviest silence, for it can also be the beginning of our journey home. When we learn to immerse ourselves in this silence rather than flee from it, when we can embrace stillness even with all its pain, we begin to discover that our soul is not truly alone. It is simply waiting for us to rejoin it deep within ourselves. Have you ever stopped to notice that certain painful situations insist on repeating themselves in your life like a broken record? Relationships that always end in the same destructive way, financial losses that follow identical patterns, or family conflicts that resurface with the same devastating characteristics. According to Cayce, these repetitions are not cruel coincidences of fate, but desperate signals from a soul trying to draw our attention to unlearned lessons. It's as if our spiritual essence is creating similar scenarios until we finally understand what needs healing within us. These vicious cycles are actually disguised opportunities for growth, moments when our soul offers us a new chance to break the self-destructive patterns that keep us trapped. Each time the same type of conflict repeats itself, our spiritual essence is screaming that there is something fundamental we haven't yet seen about ourselves. It's a desperate invitation to look deeper, to question not only external circumstances, but also our own contribution to these destructive patterns. We often blame other people or circumstances for the same recurring problems, but Cayce taught that true responsibility always lies with us. Our soul creates these repetitions because it knows that only through painful repetition will we finally be able to heed what it's trying to teach us. It's as if it's shaking us harder and harder until we finally awaken to the lesson that needs to be learned. The most fascinating aspect of these recurring conflicts is that they always hold within themselves the keys to our liberation. When we stop being victims of circumstances and begin to seek the hidden pattern behind these repetitions, we discover that our soul is actually our greatest teacher. It uses these difficult situations as mirrors, showing us aspects of ourselves that need transformation or healing. The pain of repetition only ends when we finally learn the lesson our soul is trying to teach us through these experiences. It is in this magical moment of understanding that the cycles naturally break, as if a spell were undone. Our spiritual essence can finally rest, knowing that we have fulfilled our duty of growth and are ready to advance to the next level of our spiritual journey. When we can see these recurring conflicts as gifts rather than punishments, our perspective on life completely transforms. We begin to be grateful for even the most difficult situations, understanding that they are tools of liberation that our own soul created to guide us toward light and true inner freedom. When the soul can no longer communicate through subtle channels, it uses the physical body as its last resort for communication. Unexplained illnesses begin to appear without apparent cause, persistent pains that no doctor can diagnose, strange symptoms that appear and disappear without medical logic. Cayce revealed that many illnesses have their roots in spiritual suffering, being physical manifestations of a soul that is trapped and desperate for release. The body literally becomes the voice of the soul when all other means of communication have failed. These physical manifestations are not just coincidences or genetic mishaps, but coded languages that our spiritual essence uses to alert us to deep imbalances. Chest pain can represent a spiritually broken heart. Digestive problems can reveal that we are unable to digest certain life experiences, and constant headaches can indicate internal conflicts that our mind cannot resolve. The body becomes a detailed map of our spiritual condition. The most striking thing is that these spiritually originated illnesses resist all conventional treatments because their real cause isn't on the physical plane. Medications may temporarily alleviate the symptoms, but they always return until the underlying spiritual issue is resolved. Our soul uses these physical manifestations as a way to force us to stop, pay attention, and seek healing on deeper levels than just the physical. Cayce taught that the body is a sacred temple where our soul dwells, and when this temple becomes ill without any apparent physical cause, it is because the soul itself is crying out for help through it. These mysterious illnesses are desperate cries from a spiritual essence that feels suffocated by invisible prisons we create through unhealed traumas, unforgiven hurts, and unfulfilled purposes. The physical body becomes the ultimate battlefield where the soul fights for its liberation. True healing from these conditions only occurs when we understand the spiritual message behind the physical symptoms and work to resolve the internal conflicts that gave rise to them. It's a process that requires courage to delve deep within ourselves, face painful truths, and make the necessary changes in our spiritual lives. When this happens, the physical symptoms often disappear as mysteriously as they appeared. The body, when used as a voice for the soul, offers us a unique opportunity for holistic healing, not just physical, but also emotional and spiritual. It is through these manifestations that our essence invites us on a journey of self-discovery that can transform not only our health but also our entire understanding of who we truly are and what our true purpose in life is. There's a kind of fear that goes far beyond the natural instinct for protection. It's a paralyzing terror that impedes any movement toward personal growth and fulfillment. When our soul is in danger, this fear settles like a permanent shadow, robbing us of the courage to move forward and keeping us trapped in comfort zones that are actually prisons in disguise. Cayce described this irrational fear as one of the most destructive manifestations of a soul disconnected from the divine, as it erodes our confidence in life and in our own ability to face challenges. This paralyzing fear doesn't originate from real threats from the outside world, but from a deep distrust in our own inner strength and the benevolence of the universe. It's as if our soul, wounded by past experiences or discouraged by previous failures, decides it's safer not to try anything new than to risk being hurt again. This apparent protection actually becomes our greatest prison, preventing us from experiencing the fullness of the life we were born to live. The cruelest aspect of this fear is that it feeds on itself, creating a vicious cycle where each day of inaction further increases our sense of powerlessness. We begin to believe that we are truly incapable of change, that our dreams are impossible, and that our lives are destined for mediocrity. Our soul, which should be our source of courage and inspiration, becomes our own prison, constantly whispering reasons not to try anything new. Cayce revealed that this paralyzing fear is actually a sign that we have lost our connection to our divine source, to that inner strength that gives us the courage to face any challenge. When we are connected to our true spiritual essence, fear may exist, but it never completely paralyzes us. It becomes merely a cautious advisor, not a tyrannical dictator controlling every aspect of our choices. Freeing ourselves from this paralyzing fear begins when we recognize that it is not our true inner voice, but the voice of a wounded soul in need of healing and love. We must treat it with compassion, not anger or frustration, for it arose as a misguided attempt to protect ourselves. When we begin to dialogue with this fear rather than simply obey it, we discover that we can choose courage, even in the presence of fear. The most liberating thing is to discover that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. When our wounded soul realizes that we can be courageous even while feeling fear, it gradually regains its natural trust in life and in our ability to navigate it wisely. This is how we transform fear from our jailer into our ally, using it as fuel for even greater growth. When a soul is truly in distress, even life's simplest joys completely lose their color and meaning. The music that once touched our hearts deeply now resonates as empty noise. The sunset that once thrilled us becomes just another transition between day and night, and encounters with loved ones become empty rituals devoid of any true warmth. Cayce identified this growing indifference as one of the most alarming signs of a soul crying out for help, as it represents the gradual extinction of our ability to connect with the beauty and love that surround us. This loss of the ability to rejoice in the little things is particularly devastating because it is precisely these simple moments that give flavor and meaning to human existence. When our soul is wounded, it's as if a gray filter is placed over our perception, draining all the vitality and magic from the world around us. What once inspired us now leaves us completely indifferent, creating a feeling of living in a colorless world. This indifference isn't just sadness or melancholy, it's something much deeper and more troubling. It's as if our souls are gradually disconnecting from life itself, losing their natural ability to find meaning and beauty in everyday experiences. The simple pleasures that nourish the human spirit, a heartfelt conversation, a delicious meal, a warm hug, become mechanical experiences without any real emotional resonance. Cayce taught that this spiritual anhedonia is a desperate cry from the soul, warning that its essence is being suffocated by burdens that have accumulated over time. Unhealed traumas, unforgiven hurts, abandoned dreams, all these invisible weights gradually block our natural ability to feel joy and gratitude. It's as if our soul is hibernating, waiting for us to recognize its urgent need for liberation and healing. The most frightening thing about this condition is that it can go unnoticed for a long time, mistaken for maturity or realism. Many people accept this loss of joy as a natural part of aging or adult responsibilities, without realizing that they are actually experiencing one of the clearest signs of spiritual suffering. The soul uses this indifference as a last resort to get our attention, showing us what life would be like if we continued to ignore its needs. The good news is that this ability to rejoice in the little things can be completely restored when we recognize our soul's calling and begin a true process of inner healing. It's amazing how, after sincere work on self-knowledge and spiritual healing, the very things that once left us indifferent shine again with even greater intensity than before. It's as if our soul, grateful to finally be heard, gifts us with an even more refined perception of the beauty that has always been around us. When the soul is in danger, it creates an internal void so profound that it drives us into a frantic search for anything that can fill this existential hole. Unbridled consumerism, addictions to immediate pleasures, obsessive accumulation of experiences or material possessions, all of these become a desperate attempt to silence the cry of the wounded soul. Cayce warned that this insatiable thirst for external fulfillment is actually the opposite of what our spiritual essence truly needs, creating a vicious cycle where the more we try to fill the void, the greater it becomes. It's as if we're trying to fill a leaky bucket, endlessly pouring water but never managing to satisfy our true thirst. This desperate search manifests itself in countless ways in modern life. People who can't be alone for even a moment, who need to be constantly entertained or distracted to avoid feeling the weight of their inner emptiness. Others plunge into superficial relationships one after another, hoping that someone's presence can fill the space that only our own souls can occupy. There are also those who become addicted to work, activities, or hobbies, transforming even positive things into ways to escape the spiritual pain they carry within. The cruelest aspect of this pursuit is that it offers temporary relief that keeps us trapped in the cycle, like a drug that requires ever-increasing doses to have the same effect. A new purchase makes us feel good for a few hours, an immediate pleasure distracts us for a few moments, but soon the emptiness returns, even more intense than before. Our soul, instead of being nourished, becomes even hungrier, for no earthly substitute can satisfy a need that is essentially spiritual. Cayce taught that this growing emptiness is actually a gift in disguise, our soul's way of showing us that we're looking in the wrong place for what can only be found within ourselves. Every failed attempt at external fulfillment is an opportunity to recognize that our true thirst is for spiritual connection, purpose, unconditional love, and our own divine essence, which has been temporarily forgotten. The deepest irony of this desperate search is that the more we try to fill the void with external things, the further we move away from the only source that can truly satisfy it. Our soul doesn't want to be distracted or numbed. It wants to be recognized, loved, and reconnected with its divine source. It's as if we're offering food to someone who's thirsty. No matter how much we offer, we'll never be able to satisfy the real need. The turning point comes when we stop chasing substitutes and have the courage to sit with our emptiness, to dialogue with it, instead of running from it. It is in this moment of surrender that we discover that emptiness was not our enemy, but our teacher, forcing us to search within ourselves for what has always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. When we finally find our inner source, all those external substitutes become unnecessary, for our soul has finally found its true nourishment. When all these signs manifest simultaneously in our lives, they form a desperate symphony, the deepest cry a soul can make, asking to return home. It is at this critical moment that our spiritual essence gathers all its strength for a final appeal, using every available channel to warn us that we have reached the limit of what we can bear, far from our true nature. Cayce emphasized that this final call is not a punishment or chastisement, but the purest cry of love we can receive. Our own soul begging us to remember who we truly are and return to the path of light, love, and the divine purpose we came to fulfill in this existence. The most extraordinary thing about this calling is that it always holds within itself all the keys to our liberation, as if our soul, even in its despair, never loses the wisdom of how to guide us home. When we finally decide to heed this call rather than ignore it, we discover that every sign of danger transforms into a door of opportunity. Every symptom of suffering reveals a path of healing, and every moment of pain becomes a step on the ladder that leads us back to our true essence. The soul does not want punishment. It only wants to breathe again the light of creation and remember the infinite joy of being alive and connected to the divine that dwells within each of us.